Hello. Today I'd like to share just a few thoughts on Go Set a Watchman. I'm only a third of the way through the book, so these thoughts could be subject to change later, but I doubt too much of my thoughts right now are going to change. So, for those of you who don't know, this is one of two books that Harper Lee published. To Kill a Mockingbird, obviously, is the first one, and Go Set a Watchman is the second. If you don't know the history, you can look it up on Wikipedia or go watch a comedian puppet character talk about it. But basically, when this book was published, Go Set a Watchman was kind of pushed as the sequel to Go Kill a Mockingbird. And that's a bit of a lie because Go Set a Watchman was written first and was kind of locked away and forgotten about. And it's very clear that when I was doing my research that this is basically, you could say, like the prototype manuscript to Kill a Mockingbird. So there's a couple of things that are the same. Jean Louise Finch, aka Scout, she's your main character, just like in To Kill a Mockingbird. Atticus Finch and Jim Finch are, her father and brother. Calpurnia is the cook, but few things are very much different. In this book, Scout is 26 at the beginning as opposed to 6. So instead of being, a little child learning about the world, she's a 26-year-old who thinks she knows the world, and she's sometimes a little bit indecisive. Like there's a guy named Henry, aka Hank, who is madly in love with her, but she kind of goes back and forth, at least by where I'm at in the book, of whether or not she wants to marry the guy, even though he would marry her in a heartbeat. And part of the reason why she's nervous about it is because she says that she doesn't want to get married and then years down the road find the man she actually was supposed to marry all along. So that can be a bit of a turnoff in terms of reading fans because, sometimes we hate it when a character that was so wonderful when they were younger gets aged up and they become somebody that we don't like near as much. I've had that happen before with one series I read where this character, when they were like 6, was just wonderfully fun to read about, and then they age them up about 10 years partway through and nowhere near as fun. So that could be a bit of a problem for those who, love to Kill a Mockingbird. But let me go ahead and tell you probably the biggest difference, and something that could easily make somebody like drop this probably after the first 10 pages. Spoilers, Jim is dead. And thankfully, as I've read through it, there's some flashbacks to when Scout was a little girl and Jim is around in those flashbacks. So it's not like Jim doesn't exist, but it was a little bit jarring because I'm reading the book and I'm like, I can't wait to see Jim. I wonder how he's going to be in this iteration of the story. And unfortunately, he's not there at all. He's just dead. He died 2 years before this story takes place. So that can obviously be a problem for some people, which I do find it funny that they tried to push this as a sequel. I'm thinking, who grew up with To Kill a Mockingbird and thought, it would be great if Jim was dead in the next book? I severely doubt it. Calpurnia is retired, so she's only in flashbacks as I've gotten so far. And you see Alexandra, she's the same as always, so there's that. Dill is mentioned, but he's not really in the story, except in flashbacks, which I'll go ahead and say it makes sense why this is the original manuscript and it didn't get published. I can almost imagine, and I don't know what made Harper Lee, go back to square one, or made the editor and agent, anyone who had a hand in creating To Kill a Mockingbird want to go back to the drawing board. But I think for me, maybe when this was being written, they thought, what would be more interesting? The flashbacks. the childhood perspective as opposed to a 26-year-old who's going back and forth. I don't know. That's just speculation. But I will say, I think it was such a bad ploy to just lie to the public and say, this is the sequel. Because I almost think I didn't buy this as a sequel. I bought this as a alternate take on a very classic book that I finished reading recently. But either way, these are my thoughts on it right now. I'm sorry if they were all over the place, but probably when I get done with this book, I might do a little bit of compare and contrast. So either way, thanks for watching. Bye.